Okay, I'm going to start my video again. Hey everyone, if you're not on webcam, that's fine. I'm just going to hop on and say hi, and then I'm going to turn my video off because I tend to look all over the place when I do this. But welcome. I'm Marika Johnson. I'm the Director of Member Services with Youth Move National. If you haven't met me before, I see a lot of familiar names on the chat and in the intro, so thank you for joining. And for those of us who haven't met, nice to virtually meet you. I'm going to give everyone one more minute because I know it's midweek and 4 o'clock, and Zoom was doing some funky things, so I'm going to give everyone one more minute. We're going to get started with the slideshow, so if you could please, just as a reminder, mute yourself, and in the chat box, introduce yourself with your name, your role in your community. That would be great. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, introduce yourself and mute yourself are the two operatives today. Welcome again to the Dare to Dream intro webinar. We hope this is going to be very informational. I would ask that you hold your questions until the end. We will have a question and answer session, and you can also chat your questions in the chat box if you're more comfortable with doing that. I'm just going to answer them all at the end so that we have all the information at one time, and sometimes as we go through, your question might get answered. And so just to be aware of that, and but feel free to ask questions. And I will hope that my computer wants to do all the things that my computer is supposed to do today.
Shelly went to...
Okay, so again, this is the second round of these. We had another one in November. The links to the recordings will be on our website after they're done. We'll also be publishing a frequently asked questions sheet that will be linked on our website. So if you have any questions that weren't answered, here, we'll get back to you. You can always feel free to reach out to the Dare to Dream team at Youth Move National as well. So I'm just going to review, and I'm going to go off video now so I can read this. So what we're going to be covering today is an overview of the Dare to Dream Award, the application and the awards process, some examples of past projects, the expectations regarding coaching, webinar participation, and evaluation and reporting, as well as what your next steps would be, and again, question and answer. So as an overview of Dare to Dream, Dare to Dream was modeled after a program in Ontario, Canada, which is why we say Dare to Dream America, so not to confuse our Canadian friends. And Youth Move National has funded over 80 Dare to Dream projects since 2008. Many of those projects have focused on community education, stigma reduction, building leadership skills, learning to access resources, and anti-bullying awareness, just to name a few, but those are the most popular topics in the past. Previous Dare to Dream projects have included art, poetry, music, dance, and photography, as well as developed policy initiative projects. So it really is a wide range and variety of projects. So the application can be found on our website. You can link to it through this PowerPoint as well, which we will post. We have a special Dare to Dream page. You can download the application. The important things to remember is that it must be youth-driven and written by youth ages 13 to 25. They can certainly have some supportive help, and we'll talk about a supportive adult role in a few minutes, but it must be youth-driven and written. They are reviewed by a youth and young adult committee, and may have follow-up questions for applicants about the role of youth in the project. They are due December 15th, so the deadline is coming up next week. We hope to have a very short turnaround and have our reviewers review over the winter holiday break and have decisions made soon. All right, let me just make sure. Oh, yep, it decided it was going to skip a couple things. So hang on. Okay. So I mentioned having a supportive adult. So the project and application should be youth-driven, but a supportive adult will act as a support for the Dare to Dream team throughout the life of the project. There's a bigger description in the application, but the supportive adult will also need to attend the webinars and the coaching calls that we'll talk about in a minute. They'll also need to administer project funds as described within the application. So the project funds are to be used for the project costs only, and will assist the Dare to Dream team with the writing of the final report. They will have the executive officer, administrator for your agency sign off on the accounting summary. So if you're thinking about who could be a supportive adult, take a look at this role and make sure that the person you're asking to be a supportive adult, or if you are the supportive adult, make sure that you are able and willing to take on this role for the life of the project. So this year, there are, I'm not sure why that says 2, because there are more than that. There are 12 or 11 awards. There are 5 2,500 awards. So there's 2 different types, but there are 11 total. So you can apply for either an award of $2,500 or $1,250. The initial disbursement of the award, so 80% of the money, will be in January of 2018, and the final disbursement would be in April, the rest, the 20%, after participating in the required webinars and coaching. So all the projects this year must be completed by June 30th. So think of a project that you'd be able to complete between January and the end of June, and all the reporting and evaluation are due back to us by the end of July. So we give everyone a month to wrap up and get all of their final paperwork back to us. So let's talk a little bit about the project. Funded projects must be developed and run by youth. The projects must be relevant to youth and young adult mental health in America. They must be innovative. So think to yourself, is this a new idea? Has this been done in my community before? Excuse me. Projects must demonstrate reach. Will the project reach several people in my school, youth, organization, or community? So it'd be great to do a project that only you and your friends know about, but that's not really demonstrating reach. And they must demonstrate impact. Will the project have an effect on the participants' knowledge, attitudes, belief, or actual behavior? So what change are you trying to make within your community and the target audience for your project? So these are things to keep in mind as you work through the application with your team. We have a link on our website to last year's projects. I won't go over all of them. There are many, and they are, have a big scope. But take a look at those for ideas, maybe a springboard for a conversation about what kinds of things your team may want to do. But the things to consider when developing a project idea are the budget. The grant award may not cover everything that your project entails. So for example, if you wanted to have a conference or a youth summit, you might use the Dare to Dream award to help pay the cost of a speaker, but there may be other costs, such as the venue or supplies, food, all of those other things. And you may need to think about with your team how you're going to fundraise or match the dollars that the Dare to Dream award gives you. The other piece to think about is time constraints. So this is a pretty quick turnaround from January to June. This might not be somebody's full-time job to work on this project, and you might be volunteering for this. So is it feasible to get this project done in the amount of time that is allotted? So if you've never done something before, you might want to seek out some support from someone who's done an event. For example, I'll just run with that example. So someone else may have held a youth summit or event similar. You might want to talk to them about how long it takes, what the planning process is, maybe how many hours they worked on it every week, just to get some ideas if your project is feasible and doable in the time between January and June. Okay, so we're going to hand out money. It's going to be fantastic. The projects are always great, but not too many things are just free money, right? So there are responsibilities. We ask that the Dare to Dream teams who are awarded grant money participate in 3 coaching calls with Youth Move National. So either Madeline or myself, you'll have a coach assigned to your team, and you'll have 3 calls with us over the course of the project. There are also 4 webinars. Today's webinar doesn't count. There are 4 additional webinars that will be presented throughout the life cycle of the project. It'll be an initial overview of the project, so more in-depth overview, a tracking, and we'll talk about tracking and reporting requirements. We'll do a mid-process check-in and a final webinar dedicated to celebrating your successes. We ask that a majority of the team members are on each of these activities, especially the webinars, and the youth and young adults who make up the team should be present on all of the coaching calls and the webinars. So it doesn't have to be everybody, but there should be representative youth and a supportive adult on each of these activities. Applicants must agree to have their project reports and pictures shared on the Youth Move National website for others to read and learn from, and a final report and accounting summary will be required. So a little bit more on evaluation and reporting. As part of each of the project applications, we're asking you to describe how you're going to evaluate your project. So it's something you should be thinking about from the beginning. How do you plan to identify if your project was a success? How are you going to know that this had reach, that this had impact, and it worked to get your message across? We're going to need to know how, at the end of the project, you'll know if you've promoted mental health and increased mental health awareness among your peers or your community. So the types of evaluations could be a survey, a peer review, or a feedback form, for example. And once teams are awarded and go through the process, we can talk more about your individual evaluation plan. We also provide teams with a final report format. So there will be something that you create that is an evaluation of your project. Then we will give you also a final report format and do a participant survey. So all of the folks on your team will participate in a survey about how the process was for them. So there are some pieces to think about as far as the reporting process goes. So what are some next steps? So this is the time to reflect and look at the application in the next week. And ask yourself, does your project meet the criteria to be eligible for this opportunity? So think about how many youth and do you have a supportive adult who can help you with the project? Am I able to commit to attending required webinars and coaching calls? Because we are youth guided and youth and young adult focused, we do tend to have our coaching calls and webinars later in the afternoon when folks are out of school, and we can accommodate your group's needs when it comes to coaching calls. But are you able to even be on for, an hour every other month and a coaching call in between? The third step is to identify a supportive adult, a person with experience in the field of youth and young adult mental health who will support you or your group with your project. So again, this person does not have to be someone you work for directly. It can be someone, if you work in an agency, it can be someone in that agency. I've had other folks ask if it could be a teacher, a therapist, a counselor. Sure, if those people are aware that you're a supportive adult in this project and they're able to commit to the time and the support it needs to get the project done. So the fourth step is to complete your application form. You can print them out and fill them in by hand, or you can fill them in your computer and print and mail them. You can also scan them and email them, fax them. All of those numbers and information are listed on the application. Okay. So the Youth Move National team is available to help you. We're unable to coach you on your application because it is a competition. So we can't, unless we coach everybody, which isn't going to work, we can't coach you on your application, but we can certainly answer your questions about the process. We can clarify a question for you. We can talk to you about the requirements as well as evaluation and reporting if you have concerns before you apply. And we will be here to support you throughout the project if your team is awarded a project. Here is the Dare to Dream email. You can certainly send us email questions. This is where your application should go as well. So I'm going to review some of the questions we've already been asked and some things that have come up in the past, and then we'll have definitely some time to review specifics about the process. So one of the questions we've been asked is, do I have to apply with a group or a team? No, it's not required. These projects can involve a lot of steps though, so having at least a small team of other youth and your supportive adult would be highly recommended. So it would at least need to be you as the youth or young adult and a supportive adult, so a duo. But in order to really, you know, work through the project, even the application process, you might want to have some other young people involved in that process with you, so you can start to delegate some of the tasks. Another question, someone else from my Youth Move chapter is applying. Can we both win an award? You are welcome to apply for as many different projects as you would like from one chapter or community, but no, a chapter or chapter member can only win one award per round. And last year's winners are not eligible for an award this year. So if your community, which includes a grant community, so if you are in a system of care, if you're not a chapter, if you're in a system of care or a healthy transition site, and you have multiple programs under one grant, you are welcome to send as many applications as you would like, but only one project from that group would be eligible to win. So when will awards be announced? We're going to announce awards in early January, because remember the deadline is next week, December 15th. And the awardees should plan to have their first disbursement, so that 80% of the award money, by the beginning of February. Let's see if I can get this thing to go forward. Okay, so I'm going to check the chat box for questions and see if there's anything I missed. Okay. So I am going to open it up to questions. You can certainly chat questions, and I think I only muted a couple folks. If you are having trouble unmuting, let me know and I will work on that. Otherwise, you can certainly, you don't have to use the chat box. You can use whatever you're comfortable with. So
yeah, would it be I just use, oh, sorry. Sorry.
Hi, Jessica.
Go ahead.
Were you asking a question? Hi,
yes,
Jessica.
Hi. So I'm the new youth coordinator here with Youth Move Miami. So been here for about 2 weeks now, so I'm just sort of getting in the groove of everything. So the youth and myself, because I'm going to be the supportive adult as well, are going to be writing the grant on the 15th together, or is it just myself, based on what we discussed?
It should be a group effort. So if you want to elect someone in your group to be the scribe, sure. You can, have one person do the typing or the writing if you feel comfortable with that. You're also welcome to print out as many copies as you want so people can take their own notes. What we look for in the application is that there is clear youth voice and that it was youth driven. So if the review committee has some questions about how involved youth were in the planning process, they may follow up with your group with some questions about how the group came to that. But if you have one person who wants to, write it all down, or be the secretary and typist, that's fine. We would want one application per group.
Okay.
So however you guys want to reflect youth voice in that is up to you.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so I have some questions in the chat box. Okay, so one of the questions is, how much time in advance will we know the day and time of webinars? So if your group is awarded and is starting their project, we will have the dates and times of the webinars within a couple days. What we may do, because there will be 11 groups at that point, so it's much smaller, we may set up a doodle poll so folks can say when the best time is for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then coaching calls would be set up individually with groups. What we're also considering is that if there are projects that are similar, we may have you on some group coaching calls, which, we might have more opportunities for peer learning if you have another group who's doing maybe a similar project, is in a similar phase and can learn from. So we'll have plenty of time to plan webinars it would be in beginning of February, like end of January, beginning of February when you're awarded, then every other month until the end for the 4. Okay, so I'm just going to go down through the list here. If one Healthy Transitions has multiple ideas, we can submit multiple proposals, but with the knowledge that only one can be chosen as a winner. Yes, Jules, to answer your question, that is correct. So there may be multiple ideas or different projects within a Healthy Transition site. We're considering that a community for the sake of this award, so that's correct. There will be only one project, maybe only one project awarded from that grantee community. Do we have access to the slides so we can share the info with the rest of the team? Yes. So as soon as this is done, we will post the link to this recording and also the one from November. Well, I won't say as soon as. Come on, it's 4:30. By the end of this week, we will post this link and the slides on the Dare to Dream webinar, the website. So you'll be able to see the slides there, but we didn't want to do that before people had a chance to be on the webinar. Only youth can be able to work on the project. That is correct. So the youth should design the project and the youth and young adults should work, and we are defining for this project youth and young adults between 13 and 25. The supportive adult can certainly have a role in the project, and they are also there as a supportive adult, but the adult should not be doing the project. The focus on mental health, could it be expanded to youth with multiple disabilities? Sure. We, for the funding for this that comes from our funders to you comes through the mental health system, but we recognize that many of the youth and young adults that we work with are involved in multiple systems or have multiple concerns. So certainly we ask that this focuses on mental health awareness, but that could be, broadened to multiple disability awareness as well. If my team has a few people under 25 but has a few older, that's okay. You can certainly apply and let us know, the average age range. We do ask that a majority of your team is between the ages of 13 and 25, except for the supportive adult. So think about that with your team. And if you have recruitment strategies, so maybe with a week out from the project, if you're not sure, you have maybe a small group that's kind of in that age range, but you're hoping to recruit more people to join your team, you can talk about that in the application. You're certainly welcome to add additional pages to give more information about your group if you feel you need to. The ages of the group that can attend, we're looking for 13 to 25. I think that takes care of that. The deadlines one more time. Sure. Okay, so the application is due December 15th, which is next week. Then we will make decisions over the holidays, and we will have decisions made that, early January. And projects are scheduled, so people who are given awards will know in early January. And projects should be done by June 30th. So you would have the middle of January through the end of June to complete projects. And then reporting would be due July 30th. So there's a month in between. If your reporting's done before that, that's great. Otherwise, we give teams a month to get their reporting and evaluation done. Okay. You're welcome. What other questions do folks have? I'm trying to remember some from the other one. But I think we had very similar questions.
Hi, Marika. It's David in Texas. I had a quick question. So, with us being a statewide chapter of Youth Move, I've got a youth in a local community who wasn't involved on Dare to Dream last year, but who would like to do something in her local community that is part of Texas, but is very local and kind of a small community. With Accept having received that award last year, does that make her ineligible since she's a part of Accept, or does, with it being local community and her not being involved on that project last year, is she eligible with the understanding that it's all local and all her team in her local community?
Yeah, so David, I hate to say hang on, but I may have to address your question separately. I know that, and I don't want to get hung up on technicalities as other people are applying, but she's welcome to apply, like to go through the application process. She's more than welcome to apply. My review, I'm not in charge of the review committee, so I would need to talk with them, and also based on some past responses. If we can show that she was not a part of last year's project, that might be something. But on surface, I would say no, because then we would have to be able to do the same for the other applicants. So I'll check back with last year's team and see what some of the caveats were, and if it's happened in the past, and I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Marika.
Let me see some questions. Okay, is there a specific time on the 15th when it's due? If you meet later, that's fine. I said close of business, but we can say midnight. So we'll say midnight on the 15th. And all right, nice question. In the sponsoring organization, do we put the grant? And I'm trying to find someone who's under sponsoring organization, do we put the grant that we work on, or do we put the overall agency? You can put a dash for that. You can list both of them. The sponsoring organization would also be where, if you were awarded a grant, where the check would go. So if you work for, there's a grant and your agency has the grant, you can list the grant, but make sure you indicate where the check would go and like who takes care of the finances. Okay. Group size was group size mentioned maximum amount of kids, youth and young adults participating in a team? No, there is no maximum. Depending on your project, there may be a number that is most workable. There is not listed a maximum. Did our coaches have to attend this webinar? No, they didn't have to, and applicants didn't have to either, but we'll have them posted. So if you have a supportive adult in mind, it would be beneficial for them to have a link to the webinar so they can know what they're getting into, and be sure that they're able and willing to support your team. Okay. When you say that only 13 to 25-year-olds may attend the event, so the 13 to 25-year-olds should be the planning team. It could be an event for all ages, but the youth and young adults should be who are planning the project. And I used an event as an example, but it doesn't have to be an event. So it could be a photo voice campaign. It could be, I'm trying to think of some other things that weren't events, because there were a lot of events. We had one group who made, they are a school-based group, so they made t-shirts, anti-bullying, and did an anti-bullying campaign. So all of the, a larger age range participated in that. So the team who is doing the project should be ages 13 to 25, plus a supportive adult or two. But it can be for any age range if it is impacting mental health awareness in your community. Yes, the winners would be, so there will be 11 projects that win the award. So those would be the successful applicants. So once we receive applications on the 15th, they will go to our review committee, which is made up of youth and young adults and young professionals in the field, who will be working to review all of the applications. The next question is the grant opportunity open to youth groups that are currently working toward becoming official chapters? Yes, this is open to not just chapters. So we can have system of care sites that do not have Youth Move chapters, healthy transition grantees that are not Youth Move chapters, other groups that are not chapters. So yes, certainly, you do not have to be a chapter of Youth Move to apply for this grant. You're welcome, Sheena. These are really great questions. And if you have more questions, you can certainly, let me go back to that the email. The Dare to Dream email, we get that here, so you will be able to answer your questions. If you're anything like me, in like 20 minutes, you'll be like, oh, I should have thought of that. And sometimes as folks take a look at the application, they have more questions. So I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes if there's any takers for questions. Any thoughts? And did I catch everybody? Okay. I think I caught everybody's question. If I didn't, please shout me out in the chat box. Overall, Dare to Dream is a really great opportunity for a lot of skill building and learning, including your own professional development as you work on the application process with your team. So even if you don't win, you will have had the opportunity to basically write a grant proposal, which is these are some of the skills and questions that you would need to have under wraps in other opportunities. And the other project winners have really talked about what a great experience and what a team building experience it has been. So we hope that all of you apply. I would love to be able to award everyone who applies some monetary amount, but unfortunately that's not the way it works. So this one is a little bit more competitive. So again, if you have questions, please feel free to email daretodream@youthmovenational.org. We'll have links to the website and a frequently asked question sheet available on the website soon. And if you have anyone that you want to email a link to, if they don't have access to the website, please email the Dare to Dream address and I will get it to you. As you apply, remember, we're unable to coach you and tell you that your project is awesome, because I'm sure they're all awesome. They're all going to be fantastic. But we can't help you say if it's going to win or not, but we can answer your questions. So feel free to reach out. I'm hoping that your questions were answered here today. And if not, as you go through the application, we're here to help you with it. So I'm going to give it just a couple more seconds. If you don't have any questions, feel free to log off. Oops, we're clicking on stuff. Okay. Well, thank you all. This was a huge group. So thank you. I hope it was informative and helpful to go over this. We'll get the information linked to our website soon. If you have any questions, follow up. And good luck, everyone.